Hi, this is Kyle, and we're on to our week 3 topic now, which is creating and using classes in VB. Or to put it briefly, we're touching now on object-oriented programming. We've got a few things to do here. We're going to get partway through this in the first video, and this will be broken into a whole bunch of videos, because as you might expect, this is a fairly large topic. The first thing we should probably talk about is having multi-tier application design, and the title does say N-tier application design, and that's because normally we talk about developing applications in terms of, well, you're going to hear a lot about three-tier application design, and that's sort of what's pictured here. There's a presentation layer, a middle layer, and a database layer, and in a lot of applications that ends up being how they're designed. So there's one layer for presentation, which is interactions with the user, which is receiving input from the user and presenting output to the user. The middle layer is where the business logic exists and all the processing happens, and it may access the database, which would return data for processing. So an application can be two-tiered if there's no access to a database, or could be one-tiered, like a simple console application you might have done in Prog 1205. So we are working towards making multi-tiered applications. So here's a review of some data types. There are value types, and that's mostly primitives, simple data like integers, characters, decimals, booleans, and reference types. And we might not have talked very much about what this is or what this means, but some types of reference types are strings, arrays, and objects. And those are reference types because they point to other kinds of data. Strings, for example, are essentially an array of characters, and arrays are a set of other values. Objects, just the same, are reference types. As we get into object-oriented programming, a lot of things are going to ring bells and remind you of structures, which you may have already been seeing in the C++ stream of your program. Structures can still be useful. It tends to be we're going to use objects, but structures can be useful. One big argument for them could be that they instantiate faster due to not having to access members through a reference. So they can be a little better for speed. So there are arguments for that. It depends on the requirements and the scope of the application you're working on. But I would say that if speed is a big concern for you based on having to spend the tiny amount of time creating an object as opposed to a structure, you probably wouldn't be programming with a .NET language. Maybe that's unfair to say. You also can't overload or inherit using a structure, and we'll be talking more about what that means another time. If you were to access this link, this data type review link that's embedded in the PowerPoint presentation, it would take you to this nifty MSDN page here, called Value Types and Reference Types. There are different versions for different versions of Visual Studio. It's pretty neat. It'll walk you through differences between value types and reference types and what the meaning of that is and the significance. The other thing that's kind of cool here is this link to this section on structures. And if you were to look under there, you might see that there's also a page right here linked that's about structures and classes, describing any similarities and differences between them. I'm going to break for a moment and we'll pick this up in the next video.